Yeah. Well, we do have Sean Northam, attorney extraordinaire, truth seeker, truth finder,
Yeah.
patriot.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
Patriot. Patriot.
Hashtag testify.
And this is a pretty interesting deal, right? Because defense attorneys kind of get a bad rap.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start with
just
that
be honest,
reputation, right?
Yeah. So, if you mention defense attorney, the words that come to mind is scumbag, shyster, liar, cheater. I mean, legal technicality.
There's TV shows about this. I mean, there's movies about.
Well, and it goes all the way back to before we were a country. Remember, John Adams represented the British soldiers that shot into the crowd in Boston, and man, all of his buddies were pissed. Like, what are you doing, you loser? And he was like, hey, if we're going to be a real country,
the bedrock of a real free society.
Such a great point because I sort of use the analogy, and people make it a little pissed off about this, but I think it's kind of funny. Like, even Judas, right? Judas gets a super bad rap. But if you study the Bible and you subscribe to the Bible's theories and philosophies and writings, and you look at Jesus knew what was up, right? Yeah. So he still had complete forgiveness for Judas. Never once sort of badmouthed Judas, said, look, I know you're going to betray me. It's okay. I got you. But, so maybe it's not a proper analogy. But, yeah, there's people that have to stand up and have the courage to say, look, because if you don't, and I'm going to go to the other extreme, if we don't have people, and I don't sort of view myself as being a hero, whatever, but if we don't have people that step up and be courageous and do these things, then we're no better than a country who shoots down an American pilot, puts him in a cage, sets him on fire, and drags him through the streets, right? I mean, it's a slippery slope philosophy where the end justifies the means, and that's not how we do things in our country because we're a democracy and we have the Constitution, right? And that's the living, breathing document that's
so you have people on both
sides
sides saying we got to follow the Constitution. You have your defense attorneys, you have your prosecutors, you have everybody in between, staffs. So how do we get so far apart when we're all trying to support the same document? We're trying to make sure that this document gets upheld, that our society is a free society. So tell me about this relationship between the two sides, between a attorney's office and defense attorney.
So, well, I just wanted to say, if you decide to not make a choice, you made a choice.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of how we got here. But anyway.
No, dude. Right. Not acting is acting, but you have to be able cerebral enough to step back and realize and sort of look inward and go, okay, I'm choosing to not act. That in of itself is an action, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a buddy that's a cop, and he swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And he said he never learned one thing about the Constitution. He got out, and they taught him about department policy and procedure, and that's what they followed. He said, I didn't even know I was violating people's constitutional rights.
One of the gripes I have with Stephanie Bridges' office and having been in this field for 22 plus years is that her office has absolutely zero training programs for both her lawyers and law enforcement. And I've been an advocate of what we call ride-alongs, right? So when I was a DA, I was eager to jump into the car and go out, get in foot pursuits and run around with the cops. I loved it, right? Because I was sort of right-wing radical. But the cops, law enforcement should spend a week with the DA's office. And in theory, a DA should spend a week with the public defender's office and vice versa, right? So the other side sees the problems and the difficulties working with that other job. It would give you perspective. But Stephanie's office doesn't do that. They don't have a training program to bring officers in to teach them about the Fourth Amendment and searches and seizures. And yeah, we have some bad traffic stops in this county. It happens. Not everyone's perfect, right? I was joking, or I made a comment yesterday about not every victim of domestic violence is telling the truth 100%. The difficulty is, if you look at Amber Heard, she's so full of shit. But if you step back and say, what filters do we have in place? What procedural safeguards do we have in place to make sure that those cases don't go to trial, that an innocent person's convicted, right? And there's an old cliche that talks about better to have a guilty people go free than have one innocent person in jail. Yeah. And that's really what the Constitution is predicated upon, right? Making sure we have these procedural safeguards so innocent people don't go to prison.
Sure.